Today we're with David Caulkins, and he is from BespokenArt.com. David, thanks for coming on. Tell us where you came from, what you do, and what brought you to the Ellory Wells Show today.
I live up in Dallas and started this business about 5 years ago, part-time, hopefully to go full-time with it. So it was an idea based on saying how can I personalize art in a unique way that can spread messages. So what I do is I make art from sound waves, take anyone's audio of a dog bark, a wedding vow, a song, and I will transform that into an image and put it on a canvas. And so seeking to grow the business, it's somewhat had some good growth. I'm in 10 stores right now, sell online, and I'm hoping to grow the business though as a whole, and so wanted to learn a little bit of things I don't know from Ellory. And my wife knew Ellory and got a great connection there, and so happy to be here.
So what are some of the things that you're looking at getting out of the next few minutes? Everybody who has listened to one of these segments before or has gone through it, I always ask the same questions as far as the application goes, but what was it that you decided, hey, let's go ahead and do this thing? Or was it just Nelly?
No. No. So I would say that there are a lot of things that I've learned about small business and how to have a good product, how to satisfy customers, work with outsourcing certain things. So I've learned a lot over the past several years, but there's still a lot that I don't know. And a big portion of that has to do with how do I, in essence, grow my business beyond me, because I could work at it all day long, but that can only get so big that way and grow a certain amount. And so what are some of the things and strategies I should use to grow the business beyond me? And whether that's bringing other people on, searching for investors, or even in a specific area to focus on, what's the best way to really try and grow at this point?
Just out of curiosity, you said you've been at this for 5 years or so. Where have you gotten the knowledge that you have now? I can't remember what you've told me. Did you go to business school, or where are you getting all of the knowledge that has helped you with your?
Yeah, so I had I did a business minor at university, and then I worked for my uncle who has a family business, and has been in my mom's side of the family for more than 100 years. And so worked for him for a summer and learned a lot there. And then my brother and I started a little t-shirt company in college. And so that was maybe my initial splash into starting a business and learning how to interact with customers and stores.
So just by doing it.
Yeah, for the most part.
So what you're talking about, how do you grow your business beyond me? You mentioned hiring people and looking at some investors. Walk us through the process of acquiring a new customer. We'll start there. How do you get new customers and clients?
So it depends whether I'm going online or retail. For retail, there's two main ways to do it. So if I'm going to sell in a brick and mortar store, then I would contact the store, let them know I have a product that I think could do real well for them, can be personalized to their store. And so there's the cold calling option. And then the other option kind of in the retail world is you sell at shows, or you exhibit at trade shows, and buyers from stores will come and visit your booth and say, oh, I want 10 of that or 12 of that. Can you do this? We think we could use this in our store. So that's one way to acquire the retail customers or the wholesale that would sell it in their retail stores. And then in terms of online, I'm not quite sure how most of my customers find me. I know there's a portion that come through advertising. I think some of it is just searching out and trying to get the name out there, and people see the concept and they like it and will get in touch.
You mentioned that you weren't quite sure how people find you online. Are you using Google Analytics or any type of tracking software or link tracking?
So I have used some Google Analytics and find that one, in some ways, is over my head, and then two, I for my website is a little outdated, and so I haven't updated all the pages with it, and so don't really have accurate tracking through that.
Okay. One thing I would suggest, that's kind of, Google Analytics is kind of the de facto industry standard for tracking. I'm not sure about the web design part on your site, but I didn't start on WordPress, but I have been using that since about 5 minutes after I started. I would look into doing a WordPress site. I don't think your site now is on WordPress, is it?
No, it's not. Although I've downloaded the WordPress content management platform so that I can try and transition it over. I just haven't taken the time to do that or hired someone to do it yet.
Well, that would be one of the things, not necessarily moving over to WordPress, because that's something that you can easily get caught up on doing things that aren't necessarily productive. But maybe it is a priority because that would tell you where your customers are finding you from.
Sure.
Social networks, those kinds of things, because it tracks your inbound links, and you can paste that code into a header.php file, or depending on, like, if you're using the Genesis framework like I do, they make it real easy to say, hey, this chunk is in your header, this chunk is in your footer, and put that stuff right there. Because customer acquisition for small businesses is a big deal.
Yeah. So right now, every single page on that website has to be done manually, HTML, and saved and imported. So it's just kind of tedious.
That's a pain. Did somebody do that for you, or did you do it yourself?
I had someone do the framework, and then I did the rest myself. So it was too much time now to do it. So I just need to update it. I just need to get around to it.
Yeah. Well, here's a real good example for you. Hopefully it's a good example. If you knew all of your traffic was coming from Instagram and Pinterest, but nobody was clicking through on links you shared on Twitter, you just stop posting stuff on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Vice versa, if you knew your links were, let's say, I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of LinkedIn, but let's say, somebody shared it and you're just getting tons of traffic from LinkedIn, but nobody from Facebook for whatever reason. You can promote posts on LinkedIn and figure out, okay, how do I reach the people that are already there? Or vice versa, you could, if you're doing any sort of ad spending, you could focus on where people aren't interacting with you and you think that they should, but without knowing, we just need that kind of information.
Yeah.
I think Google Analytics is one of the tools that I would suggest that you use to do that. I honestly, though, I ignore is not the right word. I don't look at about 95% of it either. There's a tab like real time where you can see what people are looking at right now. Mm-hmm. Then you can see what you want to look at are unique page views. I don't remember off the top of my head. I just remember unique page views or unique visitors. Sorry, pages per visit, which would be your how many things people are browsing. If they just look at one, or if they look at 7 or 8, you can look at what your most popular pages are. Mm-hmm. So if people are looking for the custom stuff, but they're not at all interested in the ones like we've talked before about building a library of images. If nobody's looking at that, either it's not promoted, it's not easily accessible, or people are only wanting custom, those kinds of things. But you said you want to grow the business. What in 5 years, maybe your vision for 5 years and 10 years are different, but what kind of business do you want Bespoken Art to be? What do you want it to look like?
I'd like to, so I know the answer to this. I'm just trying to think of where to start to describe it. So I'd like to have partnerships established with outside, not necessarily brick and mortar retail that would sell pre-made pieces, but more so like wedding shops or stores that work in the wedding industry that could advertise and be a channel or a funnel for custom orders. So someone comes in to buy a wedding dress, they see the option to get their wedding vows done on a canvas. So it's not a pre-made piece, it's a custom piece, but the order comes from the store who is already interacting with the customers. They find the customers for me. So to establish some kind of partnership with that sort of store that really just funnels orders in. So it's a constant source of traffic, consistent, hopefully somewhat consistent orders there. The second would be to really refine the website and create a program, a software program that can help me do this process of converting sounds into images faster. And so it would be to have a program that could do that, hire on people to help me do that, so I'm not the only one creating the images, and then really just figure out where sales would come and then expand into those markets.
Tell me about the actual product itself. Is it printed on a printer, like a fancier version of an inkjet or something like that? What does the physical product look like?
So the majority of my the physical products are either on canvas or on a fine art paper. So it really depends. I've done them on wood, on acrylic, metal, some other mediums. So you can even, it's kind of cool. They've got wood paper now, so not just a wood board, but actual wood paper. So, but most of what I do is on canvas or on a fine art paper. I do some greeting. Do greeting cards as well. And
yeah, hold that on. Let me take a look at that.
So this is a stack that I did for a little customer from the home and gift show that I was at. What
are they saying in there?
Well, so this says, gig 'em and God bless. It was a group of Aggies, and so they sell at different Aggie events, and so they ordered several Aggie-themed prints.
Okay. Excuse my ignorance, because I know you have talked about how cool this is. I know it's cool. What technology do you have? Because I think you said you had created it a few years ago, from scratch, I think is what you told me. If I record something in my microphone, I've got Audacity or an Adobe, whatever, and I can see the sound waves. I could take that as a JPEG and print that on a card or something like that. What makes your thing cooler? Because it looks cool, and that would take me a long time. What makes Bespoken Art cooler than that?
So a couple aspects. One, there's not an option in Audacity to save it as a JPEG. So to convert it from the image you see in any kind of recording program to an editable image, that's one step that you'd have trouble doing. The second step is turning it into a high resolution image that you could scale to a big canvas. And so you might be able to do something on a card, but if you take that image, something like a screenshot, and try and maximize that to
it looked pretty ugly
2x3 canvas, you'd run into some trouble. The third issue is that you can record something on your phone, but just depending on even what the sound wave is, you'll probably want some kind of audio editing done to it.
Okay.
Whether that's a simple fade in, fade out, there's usually a couple more things, but the more complicated the audio, if it's a song, for example, this image you see will probably need a little bit of tweaking. And so it's something that audio engineers are skilled in, and that you can learn how to do. It just takes a long time. And so it's kind of the skill to get the image that you are looking for.
Okay. Let me ask you a different question, because I like the way that you're going with that. I want to make sure I know what makes this unique, because once I know the process, I can probably give you an idea on how you could automate some of this stuff or scale it or outsource it. So let's say I go to your website and I wanted to say, this is the Ellory Wells Show or something like that. Walk me through that process from the customer end, and then what you would do after I clicked submit order.
Mm-hmm. So you actually don't do the audio until after you submit the order. So first you choose your size, your desired color combination, text if you want it, overall layout. Do you want the audio on one line, two lines? So you choose all those aspects, and then once you have decided that, you place the order, and then you will either send the audio to me via email. I can record it over the phone or from a YouTube video or any kind of internet source. So I record that audio, or I extract that audio, take that audio, render it according to your specifications, send it back, make sure it looks like what you're hoping. If you want to make any edits, whether it's text or say, oh, I'd like to try this color, then we work on that proof until it's approved by you, and then that's when I move forward with the printing.
Okay.
So I'd say probably 60 to 75% of orders don't require any additional editing. It looks good as is. So 2/3 to 3/4 don't require additional editing. The other 25 to 33%, people will say, oh, let me just make this minor tweak.
What do they re-record it, or do they?
Probably 1 out of 30 times, yes. But most of the time, it's just oh, can you do the text different, or can I try a different font, or can we do a different color combination?
Okay, so you're still doing some pretty custom stuff. It's not like I want a black background with a light blue color and I say, welcome to whatever, and it's printed. People are still making some changes.
Right.
What percentage of people are saying no thank you because the price is too high? I don't know what your price is, so it's not a jab at you. But how many times do you hear it's a little bit expensive?
So I don't know, because I don't know who visits the website. In terms of in person, or when I have had conversations, if they ask a certain custom size, and I will give the price for that. I don't know what percentage.
Is it enough to stand? Like I've had that happen, or that rarely happens?
I would say it rarely happens, because at least most of the people I'm sure there are a lot of people that turn it down because of the price, probably a big majority. But I'm not sure exactly how many people, because most of the people that reach out are people who are willing to pay that price.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question, David, is most people undercharge for their services, and this is still a lot of service and product for you. I mean, service being the labor and customization part. And if you're not turning away a certain percentage of people because your price is too high, I don't know what that percentage is, but it's usually an indication that your price isn't high enough.
Okay.
Just from what I have experienced, some of my services now are 3 times what I was charging a year ago.
Right.
And I mean, we have as the business owners, we got to pay the bills.
Yes, and that it can be hard to know where exactly do I price this. Do I do it an hourly, or just what I think it's worth? So I'm still definitely figuring that out. And for some of my other for a lot of my song prints actually that I was selling, I recently raised all the prices on those because they sold incredibly well as is, and I realized, okay, this is taking me this amount of time. If they're selling this well, let me just try and raise it up a little bit, because I need a little better return. And sure enough, they've still continued to move inventory, so to speak.
I'm going to pull on my calculator here. If you sold 80 something at $100, that's 8,000. If you sold 200 something at $40, that's also 8,000.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the amount of work is about the same.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you sold that 80 at $110 or $105 or even $101. You're coming out at better than selling 20 or 200 at $40.
Right.
So it's like you've got to find where these two bell curves both.
Indeed. And so some of that, well, and let me ask you that. Do you think A/B testing is the best way to do that, or to just try, 1 month having your prices at this and then the next month raising them up and just seeing kind of what the overall is, or what's the best way to experiment around with that?
I would honestly say both. I'd do one and then the other. Like you could do ads and say, okay, this is $100, and then you could put another ad that says this is $40 and see how many clicks you get. If you're doing Facebook ads or something like that, or retargeting with the Facebook conversion pixel, those kinds of things. Then I would, do you have enough transactions a month that you can say, I did like 120 this month. I did 115 last month. Like, do you get enough transactions to where you can kind of see a trajectory?
Yes, although it is hard because tends to be a seasonal or event type item. So it will really pick up at Christmas, will really pick up at Valentine's Day, Mother's Day.
Okay.
So it can be, in some ways I would have to do a year to year comparison, or the same month compared to last year versus this month compared to the next month.
By the way, are you tracking that?
Yes.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question is, if you know what we used to call this, the run rate, whether if we took all the deals aside, what we would basically do in a given week or day or month, but we're talking about hundreds of transactions a month when I was at Dell. Mm-hmm. And if we took out all of our deals, what would we do basically if we were hands off? And that's the kind of how I would look at it when you're talking about testing your prices. Well, if it's $20 this month or it's $30 next month, do my sales go down or do they stay the same? Mm-hmm. And one thing that I would also be mindful of when you're looking at pricing, this is kind of weird because you start getting into the psychology of pricing and sales. Mm-hmm. So if you discount, people might not have the same perceived value in what they are buying. It was $30 last month when I purchased, and now I come back and it's $20. I'm like, well, I'm gonna do what I do sometimes at Best Buy. I want you to price match what I got then. Right. But if you do it as a discount off of list, well, that was last month's promotions. These are this month's promotions. Those kinds of things. Yeah. You still might have people that want to do that. If you've got a 30-day money back guarantee or something like that, if they don't like it, you can return it, whatever. And there'll be a small fraction of people that would do that, but you can measure that. Like, it's a $200 list and it's half off versus 40% off, mm-hmm. or something like that. And you can test it. You could probably scale in a number of ways, one of them being a higher price until you notice your number of transactions flatlining instead of increasing, or decreasing instead of maintaining.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
because from what I have seen, you got a really cool product. The customization is pretty awesome. I've never seen anybody doing something like what you're doing. Before I forget, what is that process like? So we've revised the audio, and you have my audio, you have my colors, and you have the size. What does it look like on your end after that?
You mean how to, like, once I create the image, or in creating the image?
Once you have all the stuff from me, before you stick it in a box and mail it.
I create the image in an image editing program. Are you saying after the image is created on digital, or?
No, period. Like, I've placed my order. You've gotten back in touch with me, and we've recorded it. Okay. And I said, well, I like Arial narrow instead of, I'm sure you're one of those people like me that knows way more about fonts than we would really like to.
Yes.
Give the agency FB. That's what I get in PowerPoint. We've changed all of this stuff, and you don't have to talk to me again. What do you do after that?
So, assuming we've got all the image stuff squared away, I'll create that image, and then if it's in a program on my computer, add all those components, and then once I get the final JPEG file, if it's a canvas, I use an outside canvas company to print my pieces. So I will email them the image, they will drop ship it to you. So that emailing the image and giving your shipping details is the last thing I do. Other than once it ships, I let you know, and then once it arrives, I'll follow up with you afterwards to ensure you were satisfied. And both my canvas company and myself do stand behind our product. And so if for any reason you're not satisfied, we'll either refund or send you a brand new one at no cost.
Okay.
If it's a smaller print on the fine art paper, that's something, depending on the sizes it is, but I can do up to a certain size. I have a format printer here in my studio, and I will print it and stick it in a tube or a flat package and send that out myself.
So, does your profit margin go down significantly when you when you have that other company do it?
It does, yes. It's still a very good profit margin, but it does go down significantly, yes.
Does it go down like 10%, 50%, 80%? Not your margin, but the percentage it decreases.
Right. So I guess, let's see here. I'm just, when I do it myself, if it's a certain image, it usually, I guess for me, if I do them myself, there's about a 90% profit margin.
Okay.
And then if I think that's the right way to communicate it. So it costs me.
If it's $100 and your materials and time are 10.
Correct.
Okay.
And then if I outsource it, then it's usually a 50 to 60% profit margin.
How much time do you get back by outsourcing?
If for the bigger pieces, for the canvas pieces, a ton, because that's something I don't have the equipment, the skill, the knowledge, the boxes, the package, everything that would take to do that myself is really would be a significant investment, way beyond what I even know how to do. The quality wouldn't be as good, and so for something like a 6 foot, 10 foot canvas, it's well worth my time, money to have someone else do that.
Okay. What percentage of your business are those larger ones?
Initially, that was 100% of it, and now it has moved to probably less than half. Okay,
here's why I'm asking that line of questions. I come across a lot of entrepreneurs who don't want to pay somebody we'll use the term outsource. It's kind of gotten a bad rap, but I outsource stuff to technology all the time, scheduling, whatever. If you're making, let's say, $1,000 a month and you are doing 160 hours of work, that's 4 times 40 hours. I don't know what that comes out to. Probably not very good because 1,000's a low number. But what if you made only $100 a month, but you had only an hour of work a month?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that'd be fantastic.
That would be like mostly passive income-ish or you could also say we're making, like, instead of $3 or $4 an hour, making $100 an hour.
Correct.
Because I think you could scale to where every 2 or 3 days you could batch process this stuff, and instead of making 90% profit margin, you made 50 and had them do all of it. Mm-hmm. Just an idea when you're talking about how do I grow my business beyond me. You can either hire somebody to do it or drop shipping. I mean, have you ever read the 4-Hour Work Week, the Tim Ferriss thing?
I've heard a lot about it, and someone sent me a copy and it never arrived. They tried sending it multiple times and never arrived for some reason. So I have not read it yet, but I've heard a lot about it.
Well, I mean, it's how Tim Ferriss became famous. It's how he became a millionaire. It's a good book. It's gotten a lot of bad rap over the last few years. Just like, well, it doesn't really work. 4-hour work. It does work if you actually do what he says. Uh-huh. Business is a lot of hustle. But the reason one of the things that he talks about there is what you're having this company do is drop ship. You accept orders. You funnel those orders to somebody else, and they do all the work. They take a much larger cut, but you're getting all of your time back.
Right.
Right now, just out of curiosity, could you take your business and work from anywhere in the world?
Yeah. So, I mean, I could pretty much I could do it.
Picked it up and moved it.
Correct.
Okay. That was not the question that I meant to ask. If you did the drop shipping thing, you could, and you could move, and you wouldn't have to move anything with you, right? Maybe just your laptop.
Correct.
Okay. And I don't know what kind of lifestyle that you guys want, but that would give you maybe less money, but complete and total freedom versus more money, but we're tied here, or I'm working more.
Right. And so I think, again, that's another set of 2 bell curves that I need to figure out where they line up, because right now, in some ways, if I had a certain amount more orders, then I could. I'm not at the place where I could outsource them and still make the amount that I need to make.
Okay.
Right, it'd be, if you look at it and just in terms of percentages, it might be a really good percentage or good margins relatively. But even at the end of the month, if I'm only making, a third of what I need to sustain my family,
right,
even if that only requires 10 hours a week, like it still doesn't necessarily translate. So what I'm seeking to do is grow it to the point where I can get more consistent orders and then start outsourcing that more, a little more of start outsourcing it more and then be able to pull back myself.
Okay. What kind of ministry are you wanting to do?
I would love to love anything with individuals in transition. So something that is both practical and faith-based. And so like there's a place for both, but I find that there's also some great room to blend those together. So in the past, I worked with teaching individuals in job transition how to communicate themselves to an employer. And especially if you have criminal background or a checkered past, how do you communicate those things to an employer? And so with that, though, the faith component works in of really to be the best employee you are or you can be, there has to be more than, there's got to be a different kind of motivation there. So something that kind of blends those two.
Okay.
Faith and work together.
I'm doing my scroll here through all of your questions. You had said, what are the top 3 things you hope to get out of your coaching time? A little bit of knowledge about how to move forward building a team, knowledge about what investors are most concerned about, and new relationship in the entrepreneur world. Well, we got number 3 down.
Well, so maybe the first question about that building a team is, so one of the things you can run into as a business is, or that I maybe have trouble with is, when is it that I bring someone on or how to bring someone on? So if it's like an intern, like I know there's certain even laws about what you can have an intern do for free, what you can't. And so I think I have trouble knowing how do I bring someone on? I tend to think in all or nothing. And so to figure out a way that's both beneficial for them, whether that's a commission and saying, hey, I'm going to hire you commission based. If you go out and make these orders, then I'll give you this much. I guess I'm just not quite sure the best way to do that. And maybe it's just me that I need to get over it and say, look, you might not want to do sales or commission-based work, but someone will. And so you just create a job profile, and see if anyone wants it.
I don't know how much revenue you're making, but my guess would be that you're not quite there yet.
In terms of what?
Hiring somebody to pay them what they would need to survive and pay their bills yet.
Correct. Not at least a full-time, for maybe a part-time student. So I actually have a part-time employee right now who helped me during some of the Christmas rush and some big events at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
So it's not his full-time thing, and it's not, I don't have the time to hire someone full-time, but even knowing how, now that I've kind of had that rush finish, like what's still the best way to utilize this guy and his time, my time? So
as far as commissions, I don't know. I mean, when you're paying just commission, usually there's some brand recognition behind it, which most small businesses that have started on their own and they're not selling a third-party product, we struggle with that. I mean, I'm not selling Sony or Samsung over here. It's all my stuff. It's all your stuff. Where I would look at scaling first is your product is a very visual thing. Even though it's based on audio, it's a very striking visual. If you've got a shiny black background with a stark white image, I mean, it's like a Rorschach test, but it's visually appealing. It's like, wow, what is that? Mm-hmm. So it's a visual thing. Where I would probably look at outsourcing or hiring somebody on for you is some of the stuff that doesn't require, it's going to sound bad for the other person. It's going to make sense to the business owners out there. Hire someone to do stuff that doesn't take brain power. Mm-hmm. Because in another book that I would highly recommend, especially where you are right now, is the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. It's one I think that would be very applicable to you where you are, because the way that he tells that story and the examples he uses, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create a system of checklists that anybody smart or not so smart, having a good day or not having a good day, can follow. And if they check off all of these 27 things, they will provide a consistent experience to your customer.
Right.
And it's almost cookie cutter. And some people don't like that, but cookie cutter can still be amazing.
Right.
Every Mercedes is cookie cutter, but it's still $100,000 SUV. Right. So don't let words like outsourcing or templates or something like that scare you. What you want to be able to do is create something that a highly educated and talented person can create and replicate and deliver what you want them to deliver, and someone who maybe just dropped out of high school and's having a bad hair day can do, because they're still following that checklist.
Right. Find
out what those things are that need to be done that you don't have to do, because your time is expensive. Their time, you can get, it might have changed over the last couple of years, but you can get like 20 or 30 hours of work from someone in the Philippines, where $200 a month is a really good amount of money. So I hear to do some of those things that are checklists, like talking about your order intake. You could have them just drop it into an Audacity and take screenshots and say, okay, which one do you like better, A, B, or C? It's all the same thing, or however whatever tweaks they would want to make. You don't necessarily have to be involved in all of that process, or maybe there's software that would do it. It renders that WAV file or that MP3 and spits out a couple different options. Maybe the peaks are higher or something like that. Or it's more condensed down, less wide. Mm-hmm. And then when you get involved, it's actually the things that require you and your expertise in your technology.
Right.
Because you could probably find several things that you have to do for everybody, like label printing. You know, there are things that we all do that it's repetitious. If you're using a Camtasia and you recorded your screen or something like that, you could give that, just follow this process. Just do what I did in the video, and you're going to get 99% of the same results, or 90 or 80%. Mm-hmm. If it's a matter of you're not getting it perfect, what kind of risk can you accept that would still be 100% satisfactory to the end user? And find a few of those things that you could possibly outsource with a technology using Dropbox, or I prefer box.com instead of Dropbox. Their UI is a lot better. Okay. But using some of that technology to your advantage, and take some of those smaller things off of your plate, and then you can focus on creating some of that visual stuff. But it's creating those templates. In that E-Myth book, he used an example of a hotel, and you walk into the manager's office, and it's just notebooks full of checklists. You know, whenever the maid goes in, they've got to make the bed and tuck it in, put the chocolate, fold the thing, and it's just a list of things. And you can't, if you do those things, you can't get it wrong.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of time up front, because you have to get stuff that for you would be just second nature by now.
Right.
You gotta instead of go up there and click this button, you no, up in the top right hand corner, you got to click this drop down and then this expand menu and do that. And so it takes more time, but I would possibly do that, because I think that will be less expensive than paying someone a commission. Once that's done, you can focus on getting the right person to do the sales, or you could bring somebody on to do marketing. Like I could see Pinterest. I could see you loading up an Instagram channel.
Well, let me ask you about that. So for is there a company or organization that you would recommend outsourcing social media? So Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest would probably be my main three. And Facebook, I guess, but probably Pinterest and Instagram.
You looking for software or someone to hire to do it?
Well, so I'm familiar with a couple of softwares that are a command center for all of it that you can schedule posts. But if I was going to hire someone to do it,
would you be providing the images or video and they just schedule it, or what all would you be looking to do?
In some ways, so that they would get images off of the site or off of the images that I make. I wouldn't necessarily have a schedule of this image this day, this image that day. Now you just do it. I would say in some ways, like based off of what you think people would want, or just come up with your own strategy and then take the images I have and then just go nuts.
Yeah, so I would probably recommend a girl I know out in one of the Carolinas. I think it's North Carolina. Her name is Amy Carroll, and she actually teaches small business stuff. She works almost solely with artists.
Yeah.
She wants to do social media. There's another guy out in Georgia named Derek Brott, Brott, that you could reach out to, but I can make the introduction. What I would do first for you is go through, and I would recommend this for anything that you're thinking about outsourcing, go through the process a few times yourself so you know what end result you want to be able to create, and then also how much time it will actually take.
Mm-hmm.
Amy's will have a lot of experience working with painters and wood carvers and carpenters and those kinds of things. I know Derek's got a lot of experience in some of the tools side, but know what end results you want to create, and so just so you know what that process like. So what other questions? A lot of your questions were about the teams. Does that give you a place to start on the teams? Are we talking the same language? Is that something that you feel like you would want to do? Or
yeah, I think so. And so I mean, the question is at what point in the process? And again, like if I have 10 orders every day that need to be packaged, that's something I could hire someone on that they know consistently I could come in on these days, and it's kind of worth their time to even come over, versus if I'm like, I might have one today, and so and maybe two tomorrow, and then there's a certain amount of it that can only come, or that comes with a higher quantity or a higher traffic, or what's the word I'm looking for? A higher number of them. A certain amount there, but I mean, even on I'm wondering, so the format printer I have really is not that expensive, and so to get a second one wouldn't be a big investment, and so that if someone wouldn't have to come over to my own studio, but I say, keep this at your house or at your work or wherever, and then just keep track of the orders that come in, and you do all the ones that fit this category and that you don't require a lot of interaction. So I think it's just determining what are the things that someone else could do very easily if given the proper instruction, and then let them be able to do that.
Some people would say outsource as early as possible. I would probably say not necessarily don't outsource, but I would say keep it, do it all yourself for as long as you possibly can, until you are giving up revenue generating opportunities because you're doing this crap that a machine or not you could do.
Right.
And you got to find out what that is. But I mean, if you're not out there making these cold calls and reaching out or doing these trade shows, a machine or someone in the Philippines can't do those. But if you're having to pass on those because you're filling orders, okay, maybe that's fine. But if you're having to pass on those because you are just stuffing things in boxes, I mean, that one's fairly easy.
Mm-hmm.
Find out what that is that only you can do. Get rid of the rest. But remember, nobody's going to, and they don't have to necessarily, but nobody's going to care about your business as much as you.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind when you're looking for the right person. You're looking for passion and purpose and all those kinds of things in a new employee. Nobody's gonna care like you, and that's fine. It shouldn't be. If they cared about it as much as you, they'd start their own company and steal your ideas. But just keep that in mind as you do grow. I feel like I've been at that point of hiring somebody for a long time, but I feel like I can still refine processes so I can keep more of my money.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that helps. You get to the next level, and of course keep me in the loop on how things are going and growing. One more time, tell everybody, give them I guess the sales pitch for your stuff and
Sure.
where they can find you.
Oh, my name is David, and I run Bespoken Art, bespokenart.com, and a secondary website is soundwaveart.net. And I transform words, sounds, songs, dog barks, heartbeats, or any other kind of audio into a 100% personalized piece of art on a fine art piece of paper, a framed print or canvas print, any size from 8 by 10 up to 8 feet by 10 feet. And so would be happy to create something for you. And once again, the name of the business is Bespoken Art, and it's bespokenart.com. So thanks, Ellory, for your time and your thoughts. I appreciate it, and I wish you great success in your business as well.
You're very welcome, David, and I wish you all the luck.
All right, cheers. Thank you.